All right, here we go.
People will ask me, geez, what's it like to have a child with autism? My answer is always, I don't know what it's like not to have a child with autism. I mean, it's like getting hit in the head with a brick is what it's like. So your first impulse, of course, is shock, fear, devastation, all those things. It's not a good thing.
When Joe Mantegna's oldest daughter, Mia, was diagnosed, there were limited options for parents, and even less for their children.
People in those days, the classification of autism was almost the same as saying the child is mentally retarded.
Yeah.
And, I worked with these kids, and immediately you could tell these kids are not mentally retarded, or they're amazing.
What kind of doctor works in your mouth?
A dentist.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh knew a little bit about being an outsider. She was born in Iran, where her father was an advisor to the Shah's Ministry of Finance. But in the late 1970s, Islamic extremists began marching in the streets, and change was in the air.
Religious Islamic extremists were already at that point throwing acid at women if they weren't covered.
Before things got any worse, her father sent her to California, where she ultimately enrolled in UCLA when she was just 16. There she studied under the renowned psychologist Ivar Lovaas.
He picked students from that class who had the highest grades, and he said, you guys can come and do practicum with me, work at my clinic. It was before Lovaas had really shown ABA to be effective. So we were kind of writing these programs as we went along.
Lovaas was developing a controversial technique known as ABA, or Applied Behavior Analysis.
Behavior modification is what we used to call it in the old days. It's it's changing someone's behavior based on how you reinforce it or don't reinforce it.
Say thank you. Thank you.
But Dr. Doreen, as she's known by her patients, soon took the technique to another level, helping some children recover and go on to lead normal lives.
It just seems like a complete lifetime ago.
Joseph.
I can't recognize him anymore because, how much my life has changed. I mean, especially during that 8-month period of ABA therapy.
I would say the first time we noticed something was when he was about 18 months. I always like to say that it was like a thief coming in the middle of the night and stealing little pieces of our child. And I would start to say to him, gee, I think something's wrong.
Well, I probably cried for several days. I think every parent wants the most for their child, and then to hear this, it sounded so overwhelming.
I got sick to my stomach. It was a shock. And everybody says, and we felt, what hope do we have? Is he going to be locked up? He's not going to be the All-American high school football player or baseball player. And dads deal with it worse than moms.
All three of these families searched for an answer, but they were running behind the clock because no one could tell them what was wrong with their child. When Jem was finally diagnosed with autism, his pediatrician had only one piece of advice.
I asked, well, what can we do? And she said, well, take him home and enjoy him. And I specifically said, because I'd heard about this thing called ABA, I said, should we do that? And she said, absolutely not.
For Nancy Allspaw Jackson, a former network television producer, anger started seeping into the equation.
I don't think it was us. I did all the research I could. Why didn't anybody tell me about ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis? Not one person for a year and a half told me, not a speech therapist, not an educator, not a pediatrician, about ABA. Why?
Desperate and running out of options, each of the families eventually heard about Dr. Doreen and her Center for Autism and Related Disorders in Tarzana, California.
Every parent, within the first hour of me seeing their child, asks me, will my child recover?
Well, you hear the word recovered, and you want that for your child, absolutely recovered, but I think your mind can't grasp what that really means when your child has so far to come.
You're making a mess.
All of a sudden, I think the best way we put it, she just woke up.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, that's good.
Okay, good.
Changing the lives of the families drives me. I never, ever give up, honestly. And really the key with these kids is figuring out how you change your teaching so it works for that child.
Cleaning the house.
How do you know that?
And within a month, he was able to sit at the table and eat a meal. It was, just like it was gradually taken away, it gradually came back until we arrived at a day where we could have a conversation with him, which we didn't think we could ever do.
What would you do if I fell down?
Hold on to your hand, okay?
Thank you. That would be nice. Getting the children as young as possible is absolutely key to their success. There's actually a lot of literature published already that shows that when you do 10 hours versus 30 hours or 40 hours, the 10-hour group, maybe 2% of the children will recover versus the 30 to 40-hour group where almost half of the children are recovering. A huge difference.
I mean, it proves that if you jump at it and work at it, changes can happen.
It's a marathon. It's
a
not
marathon,
a sprint.
not a sprint.
It's not a sprint. And we're going to run the marathon.
Wow, can you catch that?
Amazing. She's absolutely amazing, and she just has a way about her, an intensity, and she's so caring towards the parents and towards the kids. But the thing that's even doubly amazing, it's like she's Superman, but she's Superman who went and trained a bunch more of Supermen.
Right now, almost 50% of Dr. Doreen's patients will make a full recovery, a level that's determined by standardized assessment and IQ tests. But even those who may not fully recover still go on to live productive, semi-independent lives.
It's funny, my wife has a theory, and I'm starting to more and more think she might be onto something. That even that the autism and these related disorders could be almost like this kind of little quirky link in our evolution. And so it's almost like as if there's this little glitch in our moving forward as a species. These people they often have smiles on their face, are pure of spirit, are pure of heart. They may be evolutionary ahead of us in some ways, and we can learn a lot from them.
When I tell people I work with autistic kids, the first thing they say is, oh my gosh, that must be a really tough job. And honestly, I am in heaven. And they are amazing. They keep teaching me now.